To find out. I believe I've got a creative signature, and I believe that's influenced by, my life here in London, especially in London in the UK, and then obviously a great influence from European art house. So at the time I studied film art, and it depends on the lecturer you have, the film lecturer, and what their interests are and the models that are available. It's what you're kind of drawn to. But I've always been drawn to European art house, and that they called it at the time third world cinema, which would be Latin America, Africa, the Caribbean, India, so and so forth. But I think that's quite a slightly derogatory sense. But I think I have a signature, a film style of how I edit and put things together. From your perspective as a cinematographer, do you think creative signature or style is important to film, and why is it?
I think it's really important. A lot of the persons I reference, or the persons I look to inspire or to research, or just to be like a cinephile, like a fanatic. And there is Aronofsky. I forget his. I think he's Russian.
Yeah.
There's also this guy Tarkovsky, who's also Russian.
Yeah.
And they have very distinct cinematic styles, from how the camera moves, to how they light, to how they decide to tell the stories.
Yes.
And it has to do with a lot of symmetry, like balance in the frame.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of the you would see the subjects moving through these walls in the center of the frame. And I like it. Another person I like a lot is Terrence Malick.
Yes.
But he's a director, but the way he decides to use the camera and work with the cinematography, for me it's amazing. My favorite film of his is Tree of Life.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
And it's
may have come across it, but when you see so many films in your life and you never remember the title, and probably you see a scene from it and you're like, oh, that looks familiar. But
yeah, so this may be, I decided to start with references, because this is how the conversation between a director and a cinematographer would start, in my opinion.
Yes.
It would be, we talk about the story, and then we start visualizing how the film looks. And the best way to do that is to use the 120 years of cinematic development that exists.
Yeah.
So basically, you look at everything that has been done, and you see how and why people made these choices.
Yes.
And then you create your own how and why, and you within that you'll find your style for this particular project.
Yes.
And maybe over time, as you do more than one projects with different directors, you might start to see things that that you think that you like to represent how you do things with the camera.
Yes. And you think that's, and do you think that signature, whether it's opening a particular frame, like framing it in a certain way with the mise en scène, how you place objects within the film frame, you think for a cinematographer, because I know as a filmmaker, it can become quite, I need to have that there, otherwise the whole landscape doesn't work. Is it important for you, or
it is important, but I think I'm really flexible and open, And I think from life and from the experience I've had so far, a lot of beautiful things are gifted to you in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to be aware. I mean, it's good to go into your project with a very well defined aesthetic proposal. Like you write it down and
Yeah.
you decide, what colors are going to go in the frame.
Yeah.
And and all of this you do with the director, and it's important to go through that process, but it's
Yes.
also important to see, sometimes maybe the clouds are in this particular position and
Yeah.
the light is so interesting that you adjust a bit, abandon your plan, but you adjust just to accommodate some magic.
Yes. And
Yeah.
have you seen, just from your work, because I have to say I loved the trailer for Haruna, if I pronounced it
Hi,
correctly.
hi Runa. Yeah, hi Runa.
It
Yeah.
was just, and I think because I just have a deep admiration for the Caribbean, which is our mutual heritage,
Hmm.
regardless of the islands, it's that
Right.
beautiful landscape, it's the earth and the sky coming together and the colours. Have you just found from your experience that you have a particular style, or like you say, you can adapt? It says, do you have to have certain things in the frame, or
Hmm.
will you override it? I guess my question is, if you have a director and they say, we want it to be here and here, this
Hmm.
person needs to be there, this person needs to be there, but in your head you're thinking, oh, I know what the director's saying, but I just feel that if we just
Hmm.
do this,
Hmm.
it would be better for the frame. Do you ever have a little struggle, internal struggle, or do you step back and
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
the filmmaker, I've got to go with what the filmmaker is, or do you fight your
yeah.
corner?
It depends. It depends on what the project is.
Yeah.
There's some projects like the really big budgets and it depends on my role in the production at that time.
Yeah.
But I guess we're talking about, being a cinematographer.
Yeah.
And I have encountered, situations with directors who are really headstrong and they have their idea about what the aesthetic should be, and
Yeah.
you end up in a situation where I guess you feel like like you're a tool, like they're just using you for a camera.
Aha.
And I I've met that situation, and in the beginning it was difficult. It was hard to like understand it, and
Yeah.
and to go through the process. But I think I've come to a place where I guess you have to make a compromise in a kind of a
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
And you have to always remember that it's not about you, it's about the film. And
Yeah.
there's a reason the director is the director.
Right.
So, and your role as the cinematographer, the director of photography is to facilitate whatever the director has in the head.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why you were chosen as well for
Mm.
this project.
Yeah.
So you have to, it's a conversation you have to have with yourself,
Yeah.
and it's all based on the kind of relationship you develop with the director, like
Yeah.
while you're developing how the frame is going to go. Like you should discuss it, and you develop a way to communicate.
Yeah.
And the other option, the other possible solution could be, let's do another take. Let's do it like the
Yeah.
director wants it. Let's do it
The
how
way,
I think it
yeah,
should work.
and see,
And
and
you
then
guys, you choose in the edit.
yeah, and
Yeah.
see if you can merge it together.